Welcome back, and in this video we're going to start creating some things in Inventor. So this is kind of be an introduction to Inventor for those of you who have never used it before or just kind of curious about the program. It's a Autodesk product and it is used really just to make 3D modeling. You can do 3D in AutoCAD, but this is kind of a little bit more user friendly and it lets you go ahead and make edits or changes things rather quickly. So enough hearing me talk about it. Let's go ahead and jump over to the program and see what it looks like. Now when you open up Inventor, this is typically something that you're going to look like. I could go into some more advanced stuff like setting up projects and things of that nature. But for what we're going to create here, I don't need to go all into that. Once we start setting up some assemblies and other things of that nature, I will introduce the process of making a project. And that way it'll keep all of your parts that you create in one single file. But if you open up Inventor, it's going to look something similar to this. What I usually like to do is go ahead and click on the new icon button here. And once I do that, you should get a dialog box that's going to appear. That looks like this. Now depending on how or what kind of part you're creating, and what I'm meaning by that is that what are the units of the part that you're creating. Either it's going to be in millimeters or in inches. So you're going to have your basic templates here under the English US. That's the version that I'm using. If you're using inches, you're going to select the English one, and then you can see that it has a little inch mark next to these. If you're going to choose metric, you'll have a drop down here and you can select metric. Don't be so stuck on this, because if you select the wrong one, you can always change them in the drawing. And so when I create this part, I will show you where to go to change that at. But I'm going to create a millimeter part. And once again, if you did click on just the regular one here, and you just clicked on the standard IPT one, and that's going to be the other file extension for it. If you're creating a part, you're going to create an IPT. So if you're selecting just this one, it doesn't have any inches or millimeters behind it, but typically it's going to be set up in inches. I'm going to go ahead and use a metric one, and I'll show you where to change that at. So once I have this selected, I'm going to double click this icon, and then I'm going to give Inventor a little second to load up. Once it loads up, you're going to see some things that you're kind of familiar with if you worked in AutoCAD 3D. These commands here are going to be the same ones that you're going to use in AutoCAD or any of your other 3D programs. I know in SolidWorks, it may, instead of saying extrude, it may call it a boss or a base or something along that line. But the revolve, the sweep, and the loft are the main ones that you're going to use to create most of your parts. There are some other advanced commands in here that'll speed things up for you, like the whole command and coils and things of that nature. But those are still going to be based off of these four. Okay? Now, if you did select the wrong units, or you just want to verify which units that you're in, you can select the Tools tab here, and then you can go to Document Setting. And once that opens up, click on the words Unit, and then you can see that length is set to millimeters. So if yours is set to anything other than that, you can go ahead and change it here, and then all your values that you create in your drawing will be set to millimeters. Let's go ahead and close this. Go back to the 3D modeling tab. Alright, some other things that you're going to see here is going to be your browser. So along this side is that as we start creating things, you're going to see these icons that's going to appear. So depending on what operation you use, whether it be an extrusion, a revolve, a sweep, or something along that line, or even your fillets and holes, it will keep track of it along this side. But for this part, we're just going to do a simple part. So it's only going to be one extrusion there. I'm going to select the icon here at the top to create a sketch. You can also see in the tooltip that if I select S on my keyboard, that'll also get me into a 2D sketch. Now you'll notice that there's nothing created right now. There's no planes or things of that nature. But immediately, once I select the sketch icon, now I'm going to get the plane that I'm going to create on. Alright, so I'm going to look at the orientation of my part, and then I'm going to try to mimic which plane that I can go ahead and create this on. Okay, so here on the drawing, you can see that the view that has the most parts that I can create this in or the one view that I can create this in, will happen to be the top view. So that's why I'm going to select the top view. Alright, so when I come back into Inventor, I'm going to select the one that's showing me the top view. I'll try to orient this to the right location or right view, but I'm not really big concerned with that. I'm more concerned with at least getting it in the right orientation. Okay, so how do I know which one of these are going to be my top view? I kind of reference over here to my view cube, and that's the word top here. I can actually click on this top here, and you're going to see it rotate around. And then I'm just going to use this handle to spin it. So now this is my top view, which makes this my front view. So I can actually select this plane here. And now I will start creating on the top view. Alright, so once you select that plane, you're going to see you're going to get crosshairs. Your ribbon will automatically change to the sketch. And what I'm going to do next is just start sketching my part out, right? I'm going to start with the line command. And this is one of those things that are different from AutoCAD, is that there is no ortho lock or anything of that nature. So you just kind of make sure that you line it up. So I'm going to select this first point. I'll come down here, and when it's get vertical, you can see the little icon. I'm just going to do a left click here. I'm going to come back, and I'm waiting on that icon, and you can see that it's perpendicular. What I'm trying not to do is that if I stop here, you see that dotted line means that it's going to actually lock that point to that. So I'm just going to go a little bit past that. Click here, kind of create my back shape. Once again, I'm being really careful just to make sure that those lines are staying orthogonal. I'm going to come back this direction, and then once I see it locks here, and in this case I do want that to be applied. So I will do a left click here. Just panning down, and by holding down the middle mouse button, I'm going to go up this direction. I'll do a left click here. I'm going to come back to when it comes to this icon here. So yes, I do want to keep those two in line with each other. I'll do a left click here. Come down and place it here. I'm just going to draw this line here. I'm going to also stay away from locking it to this yellow dot here. So I'm just going to make sure I create my shape right around in here. Come back down to here. And once again, I am locking it to that end point. So I'm going to left click here. And then once I left click on this point, it should stop the line command for me, right? I'm still in the line command, but it stopped it because it says that you're kind of at a point to where you started from. Alright, I'll go ahead and hit the escape button, and that'll get me out of the command. So that is very similar to AutoCAD. One of the other things that you're going to notice is that the reverse button or the zoom in button on your mouse is going to be differently. So your scroll wheel will behave differently. It's going to be the opposite of what it did in AutoCAD. But everything else is going to work exactly the same. Alright, so the next thing I like to do is find the dimension that is my largest dimension, and I'll place that dimension on my drawing first. So here you see that the 50 is my largest number that I have here. So I'm going to go ahead and place that dimension on first, and you're going to see that in Inventor that my view is going to scale, or my part I should say, or my sketch actually, is going to zoom to that. So that's why I always try to pick the largest number first. Alright, so let's go ahead and put a dimension. I'm going to select this line. Make sure that I'm not selecting the midpoint or these two endpoints. So I'm just going to select the whole entire line here. I'm going to come up and place that dimension. Now once I select that line, I have to come up here and left click, and then you're going to get the edit dimensions to come up. At this point, I'm just going to type in 50, and once I hit enter, you're going to see that the whole entire sketch will scale up. Okay, I'm going to zoom out a little bit, and I'll continue putting the other dimensions on. I have a dimension here, so I'm just going to left click on this line. I'll come up and left click here, and then I'll type in 40. I'll do a left click here and place that dimension, type in 20. Do a left click on this line and left click here. This is 20. And then one more left click here and then a left click here and tell it that this is 20. Now you see that these lines are the same. When we create other parts and things of that nature, we can apply some other constraints to do that for us. And for example, I could have used the equal constraint and made all three of these lines equal, but I'll save that for another part. Let's go ahead and keep dimensioning. I'll go to dimension this line here. So I left click that line, then I'll left click here, then I'll type in 35. On the back side here, I'm going to do a left click on this line, and I'll place it here. Type in 20. Now it doesn't tell me that these two parts are in line with each other, or are the same length. So I think I can go ahead and apply that now if I wanted to. Because you can see from the drawing, I don't even have any dimensions placed on that. It gives me that this is locked at 20, so it is implied that this line here is equal to that line. So I will apply the equal constraint. So I'll go to equal, select that line, and then I'll select that line. And you're going to see that now it sets these two equal to each other. Alright, go ahead and hit the escape button. Now, you can see at the bottom right here, it says I have two dimensions that I need. So what I need to do now is I need to kind of move this around a little bit. The two dimensions that it's looking for is, where is it in relation to this center dot? If you don't have this dot here, you can see it if you select or expand the origin, and then where it says center point, that should be where your dot is. If you actually erased it, you can select project geometry, and then select the center point button, and then that should bring it back. Alright, so I'll go ahead and escape out of this. I'm just going to kind of move my part just around this. So I'm going to left click on this line. I'm left clicking and holding, and I'm just dragging this down. Okay, so you can kind of manipulate this however you want to in order to get it in the right position. Let's go ahead and add a dimension from this line. Once again, I'm not picking any midpoints or endpoints. I'm selecting this line here, and then I'll click this yellow dot. And once I come down and place my dimension, I'm going to do a left click here. And now it's asking me for either a number or some kind of equation. In this case, I'm going to use an equation. I'm going to say this one, so I'm going to select that dimension plus this dimension. So it's going to automatically add these two dimensions. Now, I'm going to make it a little easier so Inventor don't get confused. And if you remember this way back in your grading school, is that I'm just going to put a parentheses in front of this and a parentheses behind it. And then I'll hit divided by 2. So now, no matter which one of these numbers I change, or if it has to change later, it's going to always keep this part in the center. So I'll hit the check mark here. And now you see that that number is 45, which is indeed half of these two numbers added together. Alright. Once again, I have my yellow dot here kind of positioned in between this line, right? So I want this yellow dot kind of in between that. You can left click and drag this up and down now. So just kind of get it, make sure that that yellow dot is between these two lines. Let's go ahead and go to dimension. Select this line, and then the yellow dot here. And then I'm going to left click here and place that dimension. Once again, it's highlighting right now. I'm going to select this dimension here. And then I'm just going to divide that by 2. Once I hit the check mark here, or enter, it should center it that way. So everything should change to a different color. And you can see here at the bottom, my sketch here is now fully constrained. I'll go ahead and go to Finish Sketch. Then I'll choose the Extrude option. And what I'm going to do here, and since it's kind of highlighting it right now and trying to give me a view of it, I'm just going to make this in an isometric view by selecting this corner here. And I can see that my part is now asking me how far I want it to go. I'm just left clicking and dragging on that arrow. So you have some control of moving it there, or you can type in more exact numbers here in the dialog box. I'm going to split this, and that's going to be one thing that I'm going to use a lot, is making sure that when I create a part that I try to keep it centered, at least on the first sketch on these planes. So once I have that there, I'm going to change this number to 35. And then once I hit the OK button, you should see your part. Okay? Let's kind of look at the home view of this one. Now you can see that I have created that part. It looks exactly like what I have in my sketch. And I think that's kind of a good first part if you're learning how to create things in Inventor. Okay? So I hope you enjoyed looking at me kind of sketch a simple part. As we continue down this journey, you're going to see that the parts will get a little bit more complicated, but this is a really good and simple part to do on your first time. Hopefully you enjoyed this, and tune back in for the next one that I'll create. Thank you.